Today Emmeline heads towards the ruined city of Malmouth, excited to show all its inhabitants her new weapon and of course her force wave of friendship. We warp to the Warden's cellar and reminisce about all the good times we had together. Then make our way towards the ethereal barrier that blocks our way out of Burrich. We blast our way through all opposition on the way to the barrier and fight Dralgar, the Keeper of Burrich. All he keeps now is the reminder of Emmeline's force wave and piercing battle cry. A sound to strike fear into even the hardiest of Cairn's monsters. We'll be picking up 5 devotion shrines along the way, and bravely running away from all the optional areas, such as Den of the Ancients and Galacross the Mountain in Malmouth Sewers. We activate the Gloomwald rift and immediately notice that the plants of this area appear to be somewhat hostile to us. The expansive open areas of the Gloomwald and Ugdenbog can be tricky to navigate, but we find Garrett Torvin and port him to Devil's Crossing. And at this point I realise I've missed the devotion shrine, so I do a little backtracking. We activate the shrine and show our force wave of friendship reaching level 41. With such a large area to cover in this DLC, Emmeline will be running quickly between each point of interest and hoping for an Ugdenbog girdle along the way. Our next point of interest after the Gloomwald crossing rift is the Den of Caraxis, who we need to enter negotiations with in order to please the Witches of Uchtenborg. In the den we find a Forsaken Savage totem, activate it, funnel them into the hot gates, and get a lucky drop of an ancient heart. At this point I remember Wizito's advice and bind force wave to right click in order that it will always be available in the event that Emmeline gets distracted and forgets to swap back to her front bar. We evolve our standstill and force wave strategy for Caraxis, backing up slightly every time he gets into melee range in order to avoid being shotgunned by his radio poison attack. I had a slightly concerning moment with that attack on my test character. Even though Emmeline has better resistances and armour than my test character, I play it safe because it's difficult to complete hardcore mode if you're dead. We pick up the Heart of Caraxis and our first Ugdenbog girdle, then make our way outside where we get ambushed. Never let your guard down during the short loading screens between areas. Onwards to find the Witches of Uchtenborg. We offer the Heart of Caraxis to Garadia, who tasks us with dealing with Barrowhome. So back out into the wilds we go, putting 2 points into Oathkeeper and Haven for some extra health and improved healing. Our devotion point goes into Ulo, Keeper of the Waters, for 10% extra elemental resist. It's overkill for us right now, but will become important once our resistances get dropped in Elite. Ugdenbog is another wide open area and easy to get lost in, or at least it is for me. Our new weapon is looking pretty good and we are cutting through our enemies a lot quicker than in Act 4. The design of Ugdenbog reminds me of Black Marsh in Elder Scrolls. A dense jungle and marshland that is spotted with Aztec looking structures. Reading the Mysteries of Ugdenbog lore note, it appears that the flora and fauna of this region don't seem to conform to what you would expect to find naturally in an area such as this. In fact, some evidence suggests that these creatures are eldritch in nature and appear to have been placed here rather than developed naturally. Yeah, we're not taking any more risk than we need to for this run. After all, it's hard to beat hardcore if you're dead. We deal with the Forsaken Savage Totem and our build is looking very good in terms of both offense and defense now. We could run quickly to our destination, but in hardcore it's prudent to clear areas out because bravely running away from a monster into a horde of other monsters that you should have cleared out is an embarrassing way to finish your hardcore run. Not that I'm speaking from experience, I must have read that on a forum somewhere.
Yes, that'll do.
We enter the Tomb of Ugdal for the devotion shrine contained within. Loot it and then quickly leave. Emmeline activates the Barrowholm Rift and meets Scorv, who's totally normal and definitely not eating people, nor will later demand sacrifices in order to bring about the return of an ancient once betrayed and now thirsty to drink the blood of its betrayer. Right? Totally normal guy? So we choose to remain friendly with Barrowholm and perform a few quests for them, heading north to restore some wards and harmlessly direct some travellers to the settlement. Hitting level 42, we put 1 point into Ascension, which we can activate in battles for some damage and damage absorption buffs. Then 2 points into the Mastery bar for extra health. We are working our way towards Guardians of Imperium for the resistance reduction and passive damage dealing abilities. Our build is looking good and we no longer need to immediately scrutinise and equip every single upgrade we find. This mine is very reminiscent of Cronley's hideout, but the water features, barnacle encrusted structures, and new enemy types stop things from feeling in any way at all repetitive. We gain respected status with Homestead and make a note to visit their quartermaster to see what is now available to us. When fighting the Nexus Shade, we move out of its AoE every time because our health can drop pretty quickly here if we aren't paying attention. We check off another somewhat scary boss from this act. Backtracking, we make sure we've dealt with all the pit creepers required to complete the Mine Pests quest. And of course we get to the obligatory point in the script where I have to admit that I'm getting lost. Emmeline exits the mine, reaches friendly status with the Coven of Ugdenbog and goes looking for more innocent people who, yeah, totally won't end up being eaten, boiled, mashed or stuck in a stew. We restore the eastern ward and Emmeline goes looking for the southern one, which will complete the side quests we need to do for Barrowholm. Our bags are full, so we port to Devil's Crossing and check upgrades. These gloves give us an extra 60 armor and improve our chaos and elemental resistance. Emmeline chooses the resistant Ugdenbog Girdle of the Fox for its resistance stats and of course that +1 to all skills and soldier. That does mean we have to say goodbye to Frizzik's utility pack. It has served us so well up until this point, but at 17 armor we unfortunately need to upgrade it. We transfer our components, sell the rest, hand in our quest to Amala Torvin and spend some time at the blacksmith looking for ways to upgrade our Aether Resist to no avail. It has me a little concerned when I consider some of the things we will be facing in Malmouth. Emmeline hands in the Barrowholme side quests and acquires the Ugdenbog fetish that we have been looking for. Before we hand it into the Coven, we finish off the last easy part of the Barrowholme questline for some reputation and warp to Ugdenbog to deal with Laria. I get a suspicious feeling that Barrowholme may not be quite as wholesome as they claim to be, so we warn Laria and lie to Scorv about killing her. We have what we need now to rescue Ulgrim from the Void, so we port to Barrowholme, head north and go looking for him. At this point I'm worried about the conversation we will soon have with Ulgrim. I'm in fear that we're going to pick the wrong option and have to fight him, something I am very much against doing on hardcore. We put 3 points into our mastery bar and push on towards Guardians. Our next devotion point goes into Ulo for some flat health and life leech resist. The Desolate Wastes provides us with some more Chthonians who we can introduce to our Force Wave of Friendship. Floyds Edge is where things start to get a little scary and we have to start paying some attention. Nothing in here is particularly scary on its own, but things can get out of hand quickly if we try and rush through without clearing the areas behind us.
Eketsul, the progenitor of darkness?
Who does he think he is with such a fancy title like that, thinks Emmeline.
Well, to complete that game, I'm Emmeline, the forefather of Force Wave.
We stand still in Force Wave, popping a potion before we fall past 50% health. With that out the way, we find Ulgrim and carefully navigate through the conversation and gain respected reputation with the Black Legion. Again making a mental note to check out the Quartermaster. As we leave Floyds Edge and check in with Ulgrim, this marks the halfway point of the Ashes of Malmouth DLC. Things have been okay so far, but now we will meet a heavy density of ethereal enemies, and they will be gathered in close quarters once we reach Malmouth proper. Things just got interesting. Our first goal is to secure the Rift Gate outside Malmouth. In order to do so, we will first have to fight through the outskirts, right through the middle of a battle of cultists, Chthonians and ethereals. The chaos damage is something that we no longer need to worry about after fixing our resistance, but our 58% Aether resistance is a cause for concern, especially with the obelisks around spreading the Aether over the land, and the fact that we need to make a small detour to grab a devotion shrine. On the plus side, however, it gives us some opportunity to farm for Aether crystals. At the shrine we put our point into cleansing waters and attach it to Warcry. This ability will purge buffs from the enemy and purge debuffs from ourselves, including damage over time attacks, a very handy defensive ability. With that diversion out the way, we can head towards Malmouth Gates and secure the rift. We introduce the invaders to our Force Wave of Friendship and head into the sewers to look for survivors. Throughout the sewers we will run into lots of ethereals, but nothing too challenging. We bravely run away, from Galacross the mountain and find that there are survivors in the sewers, the Malmouth resistance. We sell our loot and prepare ourselves for the hell on earth outside that is Monmouth City. One point into Rebuke for some small resistance to life reduction, and more importantly, some reflect damage reduction. Out in the Candle District, we are tasked with lowering the city bridge and destroying the 3 wagons used for transporting the corpses used as fuel in the ethereal experiments. I can usually never find all these wagons, so I prepared well for this. I found their locations on the wiki, confirmed them all with my test character, but on this playthrough, the northern wagon just wasn't where I thought it would be. So I spent a bit of time fully clearing this area and alt-tabbing, trying to make sense of what was happening. Anyway, we continue through the area, taking advantage of the tight quarters to introduce as many ethereals as possible to our force wave of friendship.
There is a very unstable situation that is unfolding very quickly.
Eastern wagon done, and we fight our way through the city to find the southern wagon. My plan is to get all the Malmouth resistance side quests done on our first pass through this area to gain reputation and save backtracking later. At this point we gain respected with Death Vigil, and I eventually realise my mistake and track down the northern wagon. With the wagons down, Emmeline goes looking for the city gates and their keeper, Bolag. We stand still and force wave Bolag, keeping her health well out of danger. Then lower the bridge. We get tasks with a hard fight retaking the base in the Steel Cap district. We'll be fine as long as we stand back and try not to engage too many at once. With the base retaken, we head out into the city proper and steel ourselves for some serious resistance from the ethereals. We keep a note that we have some side quests to complete, some weapons and supplies to gather, and some civilians to rescue. By this point I had done about 30 minutes researching quests and shrines, played 2 hours on my test character and 1 hour so far with Emmeline, so I did end up missing 1 civilian. However, we can always come back to this difficulty and find them later if we need the reputation. But other than that, there's no need to go out of our way to finish these side quests. We don't need the XP, we don't need the quest rewards, we don't need the validation of fictional NPCs to feel good about ourselves no matter how cute they might be. Well, except for Piper.
Oh, I mean... Well, I'd be lying if I said I never thought about you that way. Not that I'm always thinking that way. It's just... Come on. Let's not keep the world waiting.
Every damn playthrough, I think to myself, you know what, Sanavras, let's finally take that lone wanderer perk and go without companions this time. But every time when we get to Diamond City, oh boy, there she is. Anyway, we head into the Ransacked Lighthouse for our next devotion point. Fortunately, we don't have to go very far in here to find it. And we can backtrack quickly to the exit, putting 3 points into the mastery bar and the devotion point into Ulo for 10% chaos resistance. Emmeline rescues the next group of survivors and gets ever closer to recovering the resistance bomb so we can make our way into Crown Hill. Upon entering Crown Hill, we are tasked with destroying the 3 exhaust vents. Northern one first this time. There's nothing very difficult in clearing out Crown Hill. It's just time consuming and can get a little frustrating navigating the narrow streets and ramshackle buildings. We drop a portal at the gates to the living factory so we can port here quickly after the 2 other vents are destroyed. The eastern vent falls quickly and we have a bit of a walk to find the southern vent. It will give us plenty of time to make friends with the new inhabitants of Crown Hill. They seem like a friendly bunch, running towards us gleefully. The last devotion shrine of Ashes of Malmouth falls easily, and we move straight onto Forsaken Aether Warp Totem for a loot explosion.
Make it rain!
As usual, I start getting lost on the way to the southern vent, but eventually find my way through the twisted paths of Crown Hill. The southern vent falls and we port to the living factory. We are fairly safe in the infestation, so we can move swiftly through here without worrying too much. Almost 9,000 health at level 48. That's pretty damn good. It's going to take a lot of damage to put a dent in that health pool. In the Fleshworks, Krieg has been up to some questionable activities. However, he falls quickly to her highly evolved strategy of standing still and force waving. Then we can move on to the 2 Guardians. Number 1 goes down quickly with no issues. And we go looking for number 2, who falls to the same treatment. Our last points go into Clarity of Purpose for life leech resistance, some offensive ability and reduced stun durations, and finally we get Guardians of Imperium. We add them to our back bar, summon them, and switch swiftly back to our front bar. The last devotion point goes into Ulo for stun resist, increasing the sturdiness of our character. Emmeline shows off her resistances, but is a little worried about her Aether stat, so takes a Spirit Bane ointment for a 25% increase to the stat, giving us 83% resistance. And we are ready for Theoden Marcel, the Master of Flesh. Phase 1, stand still and force wave, health potion when we get to around 75%. Phase 2, same plan. Phase 3, we lead him downwards away from the crystals, moving away from the aether field when our health gets low. And that's about it. Pretty straightforward if you plan your build well, keep your resistances capped, and use potions and ointments whenever you need them. If you take this kind of preparation and add to it any skill level greater than mine, which isn't very difficult to do, you will absolutely sail through the Ashes of Malmouth DLC. We hand in our quests, achieve respected reputation with Malmouth resistance, and I notice that we have not yet rescued Hiram. I will more than likely come back and finish it off camera for some extra reputation with Malmouth resistance. Looking through the loot, there's not much here except some gloves that buff physical damage and 19% vitality resistance. Some legs with nice resistances that we can use at level 50. Legendary pauldrons with a whopping 922 armor and 35% aether resistance. Plus some excellent legendary gloves with cast speed buffs and high aether resistances. Other than that, we sell the rest, then port to Devil's Crossing and take care of components. With all of our resistances capped out, we add spell woven threads to our gloves in order to increase our casting speed by 8%. And that's the idiot proof guide to Ashes of Malmouth. Bless your bagpipes and thanks for watching.